Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the Kreeger cast. I'm your host, Patrick Kreeger, and I'm joined once again by Darrell Rivers.
Indeed.
Today we are going to be talking about Darrell's career as Santa Claus.
Yes. Oh.
Darrell, for as long as I've known him more or less, has been Santa, and it's kind of given me this inside world view of the Santa Clausing world.
You know Santa.
I do, personally. And so I wanted you to share with our audience some of the funny stories that you're comfortable telling, as well as how you got into it and what it takes to put on the red suit.
Or the green. So, I've been Santa for 12 years now. That makes me feel very old. But
Indeed.
I started Santa when I was 15.
Wow. Those of you who don't know Darrell, he is a giant of a man.
They can all see. Oh, it's a radio show. Anyway, it started because my grandfather was Santa Claus. So he started with my mother ran the Santa Claus program in our city, where people would book Santa through the city community services to come to their parties and events, and she needed, all kinds of people to come in and be Santa.
Yeah.
And the people that would volunteer to be Santa wouldn't always, be the cream of the crop, as it were. So there'd be Santa that smokes, or
Ooh.
Santa that showed up kind of drunk, or
What?
Santa that was just kind of disheveled, or Santa that kind of smelled funny. So my mother ended up using all her friends and relatives, people that she trusted, people that she could kind of mold to the right Santa. So my grandfather ended up being Santa, being like the primary Santa, and my cousin, he's still Santa, started with our program here.
This explains so much.
Yeah, and we had a couple other Santas, and I was an elf. You'd go, Santa would get booked for a visit, you'd go in, the elf would come and help Santa, whether needed to move stuff around, or make sure that Santa doesn't get accosted.
Which still happens.
Still happens, but my grandfather was Santa, and then my grandfather died, and I took over his route, and so it's very cool. There are some houses that between my grandfather and I, there's been 20 years that we've been the family Santa Claus. So it's weird going to houses and seeing a slideshow, or seeing on the mantle their old Christmas photos where there'll be my grandfather, or my grandfather and my cousin, and then me for all these years as Santa, and it's making me feel very old when I have kids with kids, the Santa that's yeah. So but that's how I got into it. I took over my grandfather's route. We had very similar Santa demeanors, and so a lot of people didn't notice much of a change. And I learned a lot of how to be Santa from my grandfather, but also kind of adapted my own personality to it, and my own interpretations of what Santa is and should be. And now my Santa gravitates more towards Father Christmas, kind of a little more Victorian Santa, but there's a lot of personality to my Santa.
I hate to admit it, but you're what I think of when I think of Santa.
I'm glad. I've been working on that. But yeah, I mean, if we talk personality, but let's talk about the clothes first.
Yes.
Because that's one thing that makes me unique as Santa, is that I've chosen to wear green robes.
Which is why I jived you about the
Yeah,
man
when
in
you
the
put
red
on the
suit.
red. Yeah, because I started with the red suit,
Yes.
and then I had a custom red suit made, and then the first thing I did with that custom red suit was I went with not bleached white fur. That was the first time that it was slightly more natural looking, a little more yellower, and the coat went longer, and then between some of the versions of A Ghost of Christmas Past and some of the versions of Victorian Santa Claus, some old versions of German and Russian Santa Claus, we designed these long green robes that I wear as Santa. And then I started doing it with the other coat. I started wearing a vest and wearing the coat open. And that was kind of taken from my reenacting days, where it's the coat being open is super comfortable. And so I would wear the vest, always have stuff in my vest. We always talk about that on my Santa interviews, is what do you carry in your pocket as Santa? So let's get back to that. But green robes, floor-length green robes.
Yeah.
They will drag on the ground if I don't have my riding boots on. Because I wear my Civil War, like tall boots. And that in itself is the biggest giveaway for a fake Santa. Because kids are at that level. And so if you have those, the flaps that go over your shoes that are supposed to look like boots, have you ever seen those?
No.
Oh, well, a lot of fake Santas have these over boots that go over like a black shoe, and it's a dead giveaway for fake Santa.
Huh.
I mean, if the kids are down at that level, and so they see your
shoes.
footwear,
Yeah.
more than most things, and the boots. More often than not, I've had kids, just saying to each other, look at his boots. Now he's the real Santa. And but the boots, they're great. But yeah, when I have the cavalry boots on, they just a little bit of height to it, so that my robes come off the ground. But there's I really like them, and I think there's a lot of things with my Santa that, because it's ever so slightly different, it lends a degree of authenticity that I think makes kids think, oh, he's the real Santa. Now that I know, oh, that's ever so slightly different than, the cartoonish Coca-Cola Santa. And that might sound kind of arrogant from not seeing, but I think over the years that's what I've experienced when I have my rather transatlantic, little more English Santa voice. That degree of separation lends more to people believing.
Yeah.
And I think the green robes do a lot with that too. And I still wear red pants, and I still wear a red vest. But the green, I like it.
I've never looked at it that way, but I think you're very right.
It's just one theory on Santa.
What's fascinating is actually the concept of the green Santa is something that I don't see very often. Of course, everyone sees the red Santas all the time, but the other one that I see quite often is blue.
Well, blue is Grandfather Winter with Russia. Russia does the long blue robes. And I forget what it is in Russian, but it's Grandfather Winter, and he has his little granddaughter that comes with him. And we can talk about in another episode all the different people that come alongside Santa, like Schwarzapete. But yeah, that's the blue, and I think the blue doesn't work for me. It works for some people, but I don't think it quite lends the Victorian Santa vibe.
No, it also seems more woodsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the Santa that I've created. The Santa outfit that I've created. It takes a little bit of my practical experience, like this is a mix of my historical and the practical. I wear those big leather gauntlets now because, and I recommend to any Santa to actually spend the money to go out and get those, because at the end of the night, those white cotton gloves are always black, and I always feel like they're just like between, like, Santa. So many kids are just, germ carrying, scary, and being able to wash those leather gloves. You feel impervious with a big, thick leather glove rather than the little cotton things.
Yes, that are best left to coin collectors.
Yes, not Santa. But, the leather gloves, the vest, and my green robes.
It's actually fascinating. Knowing you as Santa has made me hyper vigilant of Santas. And once you get to know Santa, it is quite clearly who are the real ones and who are the imposters.
Yeah.
I had a very pleasant experience with a Santa Claus at South Coast Plaza.
Not me?
Not you.
Oh, but one of my helpers.
Indeed.
Okay.
It was nice, and I found it.
What was nice about it?
He never broke character.
Okay.
Period. Which I just think is absolutely critical. And it was just funny because I was walking, just in the mall, and I made eye contact with him and smiled, and he said, "People need to smile more. Merry Christmas." Pulled out a candy cane and said, "It's my last one."
That's great.
And I just thought that was really sweet. I also thought it was mildly funny because there was this incredibly bored-looking teenage woman with him.
Yeah.
Dressed as an elf. And he made some comment about him or her being his, like, elf escort or something like that.
Oh.
Like, it was some sort of play on escort.
Smarmy Santa.
No, not in that way.
Okay.
Like security.
Okay.
Because she was supposed to keep people away from him.
Okay.
No, but there are a ton of smarmy Santas. I'm making it very clear that this is not one of those.
Well, he was great.
Yeah, he was nice.
The attendant, whether it be elf or not elf, is super important. We've actually, with my visits, unless Stephanie is being Mrs. Claus, we don't do the elf thing. We just have someone dress rather conservatively, usually a black or a dark green, so they just kind of blend into the back.
Yeah.
And, Santa will come in. They'll come in if a couple minutes or, a couple seconds later. And everyone that comes out to help me just blends in the back, and no one has to pay attention to them, and they're not, forced to be in character. They can do what needs to be done without being conspicuous. And elves are conspicuous.
Yes. And they also have to be in character.
Yeah.
Which, in the situations when you need help,
yeah,
you can't break character, but they shouldn't.
Yeah. And that's funny you bring up the in-character thing, because when I'm Santa, it doesn't even cross my mind.
To break character?
To break character.
I've seen Santas do it, and it's disappointing.
Yeah.
Particularly when it's particularly disheartening when you see a Santa break character, not in front of kids. I've never seen that happen, but close enough where, like, they will get up and be in the back room or something like that it's still publicly visible.
I have the opposite problem where I'll bring my Santa into my regular character.
I know.
And then people will tell me, "You're not Santa anymore." Just,
Well, you are currently covered in glitter.
I am?
Yes.
Okay.
All over your face.
Believe you. Really?
Yes!
What happened?
I don't know, but you have glitter on your eyes and on your forehead.
I don't believe you.
It's there.
It must have been some sort of Christmas decoration around here.
Yes. 'Tis the season.
'Tis the season for glitter. So, Santa pockets. What
Yes.
do you think a Santa should carry in his pocket?
Pocket watch,
Okay.
candy canes, or
Candy
some
canes.
derivative thereof.
Yeah.
Probably a short, like, candy sweet, but mint.
Yeah. The mints would be a good idea because I always break my candy canes.
Yeah.
Literally so many broken candy canes. And I do sometimes in my belt, I will line up candy canes.
That makes sense.
But
Mints.
a good 50% of them will break if I do that.
So those two things, I would argue never a cell phone. There just shouldn't be a cell phone on the person unless it's very well hidden.
Yeah.
A handkerchief.
Okay.
And I think that's turtles.
Oh God, Jeb. So what I carry my watch. I carry an 1860 pocket watch. It's a key wind, and I use that not as my timepiece. And sometimes I do, but it's something that I can take out and will absolutely mesmerize kids. That, Santa takes out his pocket watch and winds his pocket watch, sets his pocket watch. I'm always doing something. You talked about the Santa, we'll talk about it later, but the Santa that creeped you out and the Santa that broke character. He was bored. He's talking to people as they pass by. When I'm Santa, I'm always doing something. I'm fidgeting with something, or humming a Christmas carol, or messing with my pocket watch, digging in my pockets, contemplating a piece of coal, which I also carry in my pocket.
A list.
Yeah, I have the list, and that's part of the magic, and I've learned that because people will book 45 minutes when they needed 10, and then still want Santa to be there. So I've been left in many a room.
Really?
But people will still be watching from far away. And I've now I take it as a challenge. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be Santa.
Yeah.
And if you look over, I'm not gonna be on my phone, and I'm not just gonna be staring bored. I'm gonna be Santa in this room.
I just love
There's just as much of a performance when I'm just left alone in a room.
Although I do love the concept of you just standing straight up and down, staring at the wall.
Staring at the wall. Just, waiting to put the coin in. Yeah, no, I there's just as much of a performance. And that can get annoying, and, but I enjoy
really do
that. I do that, though.
No, but people really do, not interact with Santa?
Yeah, it happens a lot. It happens a lot where the kids will all get their presents, because sometimes I bring in presents.
Yeah.
The parents will leave it outside, and then I'll bring them in. And sometimes the kids get their presents, and they're suddenly out of the room, and now we're alone in a room with Santa. Or there'll be family pictures, and everybody will be done, and they'll all leave. Kids get bored of Santa, or the parents have something to do, or something's going on. Santa gets left alone in a room a lot. And so my downtime, I have to fill my pockets with something. And I always have the things that I shove in my pocket, again, are my 1860s pocket watch with a key, and I have my key that I wear on the chain there. I have a bell, and I carry my hand bells, my jingle bells, so people know that I'm coming, and I jingle them as I walk in the door. But I carry an individual jingle bell or two to give away.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's my, this is a special bell just for you. If there's someone in particular that needs
help.
Yeah, that needs a little something.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's someone just that I see passing by, and sometimes it's, for a particular kid at an event. But I have those bells just for that. One of the most moving stories was, and this was one where I made everyone in the house cry.
Oh God.
But there was this old man from New York who would book Santa every year, and he had his grandkids there, and I swear he was more excited than any of them every year. And he would never quite come into the room until they had the pictures. He'd be in the next room shouting across the house, "Hey Santa!" And then he'd like ask me questions in this thick New York accent. "Hey Santa, what do you think of this?" You know, and the family, they either had a vineyard or they collected wine. And he'd always send me home with bottles. You know, this was even before. No one knew how old I was. So he's sending...
No one knows how old you are now.
Yeah, he's sending Santa home with bottles of wine, and Santa's 17. But he would always send me home with something, and he would always be excited to have Santa. And then one year I came, this was 2 years ago, I think. One year I came, and he wasn't there anymore.
Oh, no.
And they still had booked me. And they mentioned how much their grandfather loved having Santa, and they always wanted to book Santa to come. And so that was one moment where I pulled out the bell and told the grandkids, who were still pretty young, that, you know, this was for their tree, and for them to put it on the tree, and that every time they heard that bell, to think of their grandfather. You know, and that was this little thing from Santa to them for that. So those are the moments that I have those bells for.
Not going to lie, holding back tears.
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
Whole house crying. That's a Santa moment. That's a great Santa moment. I endeavor to make everyone cry. Now, the thing that I actually do use to make children cry, I do have a piece of real coal that I keep in my pocket to contemplate if they're being bad. Because there are people that are bad in front of Santa.
That's one of the questions I have for you.
Yeah.
So the stereotype. There's 3 stereotypes about that come to mind off of what it's like to be a Santa Claus.
Okay.
The first being that they don't want to do it, which is clearly not true with you.
Right.
2, that they have to deal with dirty children.
Yes.
Which
We went over that.
But
But there are fixes for that.
There are fixes for that.
Yeah.
And the third is the obnoxious child demanding things of Santa.
Yes.
I could never imagine that happening, and when I was a kid, I never noticed it happening. All the kids were either afraid of Santa or respectful.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering, is that actually common as the TV shows would have you believe?
I've seen every iteration of kid. There are some that are absolutely afraid. And there's an age between 2 and 4 that they are absolutely terrified of Santa consistently.
No.
They've just learned that strangers are bad.
Nope.
And now here sit on this giant scary man's lap.
Yes.
And it's scary. So that's that one. But a lot of people are just absolutely in shock. And Giant Santa is pretty shocking. Yeah. Especially with the robes. The robes make me look 2 feet taller.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'6".
Okay.
I
think
look
6'7".
10 feet tall with the robes and the boots.
Yeah.
Like it is an imposing figure. And the best compliment I ever get is from the dads who are always in the corner. And I've had multiple dads at different parties, tell me, I believed for a good 3 or 4 seconds when you walked in the door. You know, and it's great. It's great that you know, for a couple seconds you can suspend that.
Yeah.
It was like, wow. But yeah, there's kids that are actively bad in front of Santa.
That's weird.
My favorite thing is the unreasonable requests.
Yeah, that's what I was asking you, because that's the stereotype.
Yeah.
Is the kids with the unreasonable
The
requests.
most places that I've had unreasonable requests, I predict that they probably weren't that unreasonable for that family.
Okay.
You know, for the house that I'm bringing a puppy to, you know, which has happened.
Yeah.
If they ask for a cell phone and a computer and a new video game system, they're probably going to get it. But you totally read that by the house. I've had some of the poorest houses I've ever seen, I've gone to as Santa. And they go out of their way to have Santa come. And if it's an absolutely, you know, disadvantaged looking house and they ask for, you know, a new video game system, I have to come up with a solution for, what do you say?
Yeah.
And most of the time, Santa can be very deflating, especially old man Santa, my Santa creation. I have this whole thing about how I'm pushing wooden trucks.
Wow.
You know, where Santa is just so old-fashioned that, you know, we don't really have a big technology center up here. But would you like a wooden truck? You know? And I'm always pushing the wooden truck. And I kind of talk about other options, and that I'll do everything that I can, or that there was, you know, we've had a list and there's not many of those, or, you know, I have so many different excuses. And some of the houses you need to make that excuse. Yeah. Sometimes you get eye contact from the parents, like, oh God. And then some, you know, they kind of go, yeah, that's what we're getting him. So I'll, you know, but you know, Santa can be very non-committal. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
And that trick I learned from my grandfather.
I've heard that before from Santa.
Yeah. Because my grandfather in particular always would come up with these excuses for why maybe it might not happen, or just leave it a little non-committal, because you know the parents might not be able to make that. And you know, and if you don't like the family, then go ahead, promise the moon. Promise the moon. And you know, that's one of the funny sabotage things that I have done, is make up a very difficult cookie to make. And this, my cousin does this one too, where if they ask you, you know, the
what's
kid
your favorite
asks,
cookie?
no, yeah, what do you want me to leave you on Christmas Eve? Oh, you know, double white chocolate macadamia nut with coconut sprinkles and truffle oil. What do you mean? You know, you make up this fantastical thing that, you know, Santa said that's what we need. But most of the time I'd say I have this whole other thing about, you know, everyone leaves me chocolate chip cookies and milk, but maybe you'll leave me something different, and you leave me a surprise, and don't tell me what it is, but you leave me something different. So I have that kind of out. But if you want to really sabotage them, give them a very difficult thing. I really need mushroom risotto. And the reindeer are only on a rutabaga diet this year. So please, pureed rutabaga.
So, can you guess what Santa brought my father in the winter of 1945?
Nothing? Was it nothing?
No. He brought him a very, very one item, very specific thing.
Huh. What?
A wooden Jeep.
That's awesome. A wooden Jeep.
Yeah, with a little American white star on it.
As a Kubelwagen in 1944, and then in 45 he got a wooden Jeep because of some sort of regime change. That's great. That's a great story.
So when you said the wooden truck, that was just kind of funny.
Yes, a wooden truck, and you know, kids from the 30s, they're like, oh yeah, but kids from today, that's like a death sentence. Like, I just take such elation in the eye roll from Santa, as if he's this just, you know, horrible old man that's just, you know, especially when kids are like, you want an iPhone, a real iPhone? You don't want a wooden iPhone? I could make one of those. I could make one of those up right now. You know, you go into it, try to sell them the wooden iPhone, and then they're like, no, Santa, like the iPhone. It's great.
That's actually really funny to me, and also really weird because, I don't know, like, depending on the age of the kid, I would imagine that a wooden toy is still fun.
Nope. There are a lot of parents that are getting into wood toys.
Yeah. I actually just saw an advertisement for a wooden train set.
Yeah. And I thought they were going to freak out about it, but my friends that are Belarusian and Italian, the parents, and I bought wooden Cyrillic and Latin letter blocks.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to kind of freak out that it was wood, but they actually really liked there being a non-plastic toy. But
why would they freak out about it being wood?
I don't know, splinters. But they, a lot of people are actually trying to get towards non-chemical materials.
And the cool thing about wooden toys, by the way, is you can slather them up with oil or wax.
Yes.
And that keeps them pretty germ-free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get back to the pockets.
Yeah.
What I carry in my pockets.
Carrots.
I don't. I guess I could do reindeer food. My pockets aren't that big. But coal, I do sometimes have a list. And then sometimes I have a scroll with The Night Before Christmas. A lot of people have me read The Night Before Christmas. I have it memorized, just in case, or if I can't see it. But I do have that often. I'm trying to think, because I do carry some interesting things just for my...
Your glasses are interesting.
Yeah, but I try not to put those in my pocket because they're originals.
Yeah, that's why I was saying they're interesting.
Yeah, I wear, I got a new pair this year at the military show, actually. But some 1920s. I actually liked having some rims on the glass, but they were rimless before. Just little glasses, little Santa glasses. I've broken like 4 pairs of glasses as Santa. It's really funny.
And they're probably all originals.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to, for a good 5 years, I wore the pince-nez.
Yeah.
And it was great when I had the fake beard.
For those of you who are listening who don't know what that strange French phrase is.
Yes, the pince-nez, the Teddy Roosevelt glasses. It just pinches on your nose instead of having the bars on your ears there.
One of my favorite things about having this podcast is watching people mime things to our audience.
Yeah. You should be taking photos as I do my little horns. But they were super comfortable when I was wearing the fake beard. And there's so many things that have changed since I just decided to grow out and paint my beard. Because I don't dye it. I have the Ben Nye paint, which is the theater paint. And that can brush in. It's just a bottle brush. We brush in and then it washes right out. But my vision was severely reduced when I had the big beard with the fake beard, because you'd have the hat down and then you'd have these locks on the side and then you'd this big itchy horrible prison beard.
It's like you're in medieval combat armor.
I know, it was horrible. And then there was always the possibility of it getting pulled down. And then it would always give me these tremendous headaches because the wig would press. It was very constricting on the head. And now people can pull on my beard all they want. And I can see.
Is that an invitation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't usually invite people to, because the paint can come off if you really... aggressively yank at it. But for the most part, people can. And I haven't been de-bearded.
That would be tough.
There's only 2 times I've been de-bearded with my fake beard. Once was a drunk fireman who
Fair
just
enough.
went, "Who is that?" And just walked right up to me and pulled it down. There weren't any kids around. It was fine. The second one was at one of the special needs events that I was doing, and he kept saying "beard" and walking, just inching towards me, "beard." And if I stiffen my upper lip, the way that this particular beard was built, you could really hold it with your mustache. And between the other straps, it would kind of hold on even if you tug. And so I was ready because he kept saying "beard." And of course he goes for my hair. So he goes for my hair, pulls the hat and hair off, and in the whole kerfluffle, we got my hair back on, and no one really saw because there were so many people around.
Yeah.
But that was the only other time that I've been unmasked. But now I can't really be unmasked. If I take my hat off, you'll see my brown hair. But other than that, I'm impervious to the beard pulling.
You just know one of our listeners now is going to take you up on that challenge.
Yeah, do it. But so much has changed, and I'm actually I think next year, because you have to join in August for it to count for this year, but the Fraternal Order of the Real Bearded Santas. That's in my future.
Huh.
I don't know if you have to be naturally white. I think that'll be my one hiccup if you do need a naturally white beard. But I'd say I belong in the Fraternal Order of the Real Bearded Santas.
I'm shocked that you're not part of some Santa organization.
Yeah.
Again, you're the best one I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Legitimately.
So tell me about the worst one. Tell me about that bad one.
I actually would rather not.
Really?
Yeah. Too soon.
Okay.
Too soon. Next year's Christmas.
But he made you uncomfortable.
Yeah. Basically.
But you don't have to talk about it. But he was a Santa that made you uncomfortable. Have you had any other bad Santa experiences that you are ready to talk about?
I'm trying to think, and mostly it's secondhand. I don't. I can remember as being a kid being afraid of Santa.
Because you always tell me when you have bad Santa experiences.
I guess, repress them.
Yeah, I guess you do.
I'm now literally trying to think of Santa
Because sometimes you'll tell me that you met another Santa by saying "I met you today."
Yes, I forgot about that.
And people do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that do that to me. Like, "Hey, I saw you at the mall today." You did? And then they'll send me a picture.
When they're a good Santa. Yes. Just for future references, good Santas in our area, South Coast Plaza, as well as Fashion Island.
I know a really good Santa that is stationary. Because I'm not stationary.
No.
I'm booked pretty much the whole month with private parties, events.
Weren't you on something on Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, no, my first one was Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
But I have big events I do for the Veterans Hospital on Christmas Day. That is my last visit. Where Christmas Day we do a big event at the VA villages in Long Beach. For the homeless vets, we do a big Christmas dinner, and Santa's there. There's a bunch of other charity events I do. And then the regular bookings. But for stationary Santas, my friend Jackson is Santa on the Queen Mary.
Ooh.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
Yeah, he's Queen. He's Santa for until the end of the season. And they build a prosthetic beard onto him. He has the best beard I've seen. Better than Disney Santa, better than any Santa I've seen. But they build it onto him, separate mustache. It's very nice. And then he has long red robes, and he has this.
The way God intended.
Yeah, and I know the Queen Mary built this for him, but he has this great long vest, but it's this pattern. It's almost like an ugly sweater, but it looks kind of like a historical ugly sweater, but he wears a big vest.
I so desperately want to call it the Queen Marriott. But the Queen Mary does a fantastic Christmas celebration. Most people know about them for their Halloween celebration, but I really like their Christmas celebration. They do gigantic ice carvings in the old building that used to house the Spruce Goose. Yeah. So I want to say go visit the Queen Mary, but the last time I went to the Queen Mary, it was a utter disappointment.
Really?
Yeah.
I was there for a wedding.
Oh, any good?
Yeah, it was good.
I heard that they changed a lot of their rules, but I went to it, I want to say like 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And they charged me for parking.
Yes.
Okay. And then they wanted to charge me $25 a person to get into the boat.
Yes.
Even to go to shopping or get lunch or something.
Yeah. I don't remember how I got on last time. I don't think...
They don't do that anymore.
I thought you pay for the tour. Because I went there for a
So that's the thing. That's the way it used to be. If you go there on a tour, you have to pay for the tour, and that's what I was expecting. But there was at least a brief period of time, even maybe now, where they do require you to pay to just go on the ship.
And you can't even go on the Scorpion anymore.
Yeah, well, it's no longer safe. I think it's flooded, actually.
Ugh. It's just gonna sink right there.
Yeah. Well, they can't get it out.
Wow.
But anyway, the Queen Mary is not the topic of this.
So, any other Santa questions for me?
Yes, I actually do want to hear about, if you're willing to talk about it.
Yes.
Any bad experiences or other funny experiences you had?
Oh, bad experiences with Santa. I think I repress most of them.
I was going to say, I remember a few, but...
I've had a lot of drunk moms. People are okay with grabbing Santa.
So that was actually one thing I did want to talk about is the odd sexualization of Santa.
Sexualization of Santa is a problem. I mean, every time Santa Baby comes on, it's okay to like just lay all over Santa, and it puts Santa in a really awkward position, especially because there's always
he's married.
Yeah, Santa's married, and Santa. Especially when people are drunk at parties, which is every Christmas party I go to. They're laying all over Santa or making a big deal of sitting on Santa's lap. It's like, yeah, adults want to take a picture with Santa. But it's a little much sometimes. You know, I'm very Victorian reserved, so it puts me way out of my comfort zone. But yeah, there's a lot of sexualization of Santa.
I find that weird.
I do too.
So,
but other bad experiences,
or funny, they could be positive.
Oh no, I thought we were just going to talk about bad. There's there's been some screaming children, but positive ones. I got to deliver the puppy.
I'm thinking of one particular.
I've delivered a bicycle. I had my Santa bag is so big, I fit a bicycle in it. Yeah, just full on put the bike in there. He was like, "Oh yeah, how do you want to bring it in there?" I can get in. It was great.
There is one particular thing that I want you to tell, but I don't know if you're comfortable telling it.
Which?
My listeners don't know where I am, but there's a family nearby that you did something really sweet for.
I don't remember. Was it the one here? Yeah. Oh yeah, no. I've brought a lot of cool gifts. That was very unique.
Yeah.
I brought an acceptance letter to college.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That's the thing that stands out to me about your career.
Yeah, that was a pretty big one. I brought an acceptance letter to college. Mom decided to sit on it until Santa was coming.
Say, there was a whole story behind it. I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't do the build-up, because your story was great.
You know, it's been a long time since that one.
It was something to the equivalent of, they brought you over to see their younger kid, who was at this point already kind of old enough.
I was bringing them a present, and then, here's the afterthought, here for the older sister too. And it happened to be acceptance letter to college. I brought a lot of interesting things.
That's my favorite.
I think my favorite Santa experience, though, I don't know if I've mentioned it when I was on here before, but I had a real Santa experience, and I'm perfectly willing to do this for anyone else. But I've only really got to do the true Santa experience once. And it was this dad that came up to me and said, I always dress up as Santa with this cheap Halloween costume outfit. And my kids will hide and wait up for Santa. And they'll watch Santa put the presents under the tree. And, sneak out. And, they'll get to actually see Santa. But they're starting to suspect it's me. Because they're getting older. And so I want you to come in. Because he saw me at a Christmas party and was like, oh my God, you're the real Santa.
Yeah.
So we planned it all out. He put the presents in his garage. And I go to his back door. And I checked the address number like 20 times. Because I'm like, am I breaking into someone's house as Santa Claus on Christmas Eve? It would have been super awkward.
Oh.
But, so I check it 20 times. Make my list. Check it twice. Get all the presents in my bag. Go to their back door. The back door's locked. So Santa's texting. Oh my God. What is wrong with you? The back door is locked. So he tiptoes over there, unlocks the back door, and then he goes and he hides under the kitchen table with his kids, and so they know it's not him. And I tiptoe in, because I have my boots on, and at the time they were my actual same ones I wore for Civil War.
I was going to say they're hobnailed,
so they had the nails on them. But I tiptoed in, no clacking, until I got all the way in the house and right next to the fireplace. And then I let my heels down in one big whack. And it was great, because they knew Santa had landed. Took out my bag, put all the presents down, and they are giggling up a storm under the table over there. But I'm just pretending like I don't see them. And I see a couple of camera flashes because Dad is trying to take pictures of this. But they're giggling up a storm. They're, whispering to each other that it's, oh my God, it's the real Santa. We actually caught Santa. And the presents are down there. I grab a cookie, and I'm fumbling with my giant beard and my gloves there. And grab a cookie, pick up the glass and put it back down. I don't think I could stomach the milk at the time because it was this giant. The adrenaline's going, and I couldn't get it through my beard. And I go out the front door. That was it. And that was my real Santa experience. And I turned to them and kind of tapped my nose and then walked out the door. But that's the real Santa experience.
Well, I think that's a beautiful place to end this tonight.
Okay.
So, thank you very much for joining me. Both you, as well as you, dear listener.
And you have a Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho!
And until next time, see you out there.